So welcome, everyone. Delighted to be with you today. Delighted to see familiar faces, familiar names, new faces, new names. I'd like to start by inviting you to say hello in the chat. Maybe say if you are from one of the programs, either the Buddhist Eco-Chaplaincy program or the Buddhist Chaplaincy training, to name that's your current or past affiliation, and just maybe one word about how you are today and maybe where you're zooming in from. So some combination of that. We would just love to have a sense of you in the room right away. Happily ensconced in Miss City, Oakland. Welcome. Good. You have Freda from Anukampa, California. Past Buddhist chaplaincy in New Mexico. Welcome back, Shannon. Nice to see you. Mara being curious, Michelle energized in the current training. Calling in from New Haven, Connecticut. In Portland, New York Center, Zen Center for Contemplative Care. Great, good program, I hear. Subdued, wanting to move into this vocation. Welcome, Leslie from Philadelphia. So just inviting you to read who each other are. I'm not going to read all of them because you'll just be hearing me read and read and read. But we're delighted to have you all here, no matter where you're from, if you're looking for a community, if you're interested in a program, if you're a graduate of a program, you're very welcome here. And Kirsten, do you want to add any welcome of your own?
Welcome. Welcome. Really wonderful to be with you. Yeah. And for those of you who are from the Pacific Northwest of the US, I join you from White Salmon, Washington, land of Wasco, Wishram, Yakima peoples, and black bear and salmon. And it's raining here too. Yeah.
Yes. And to name that, I am zooming in from Santa Cruz, California, where it is foggy and it looks like it might rain at any minute. It's hard to know. And it is the unceded land of the Awaswas Ohlone people here, Ohlone people. And to be a little bit more poetic, the way Kirsten just was, it is the land of otters and sea lions and seals and redwood trees. So happy to be with you.
Sorry, Dawn. What city and state did you say?
Santa Cruz, California.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to just start transitioning us to the program. We just wanted to establish a couple of ground rules because we are going to be doing a lot of relational stuff today, a lot of relational practices and connecting with each other. So it's really helpful if you can to have your camera on unless you're doing something distracted, or if you need to take care of yourself, if you're someone who can't be particularly near a screen or you need to lie down, that's fine. But in general, to have the camera on so we can be engaged and to take care of yourself today, to let this nourish you. So the other thing we'll ask is when you're in the small groups, that to keep confidentiality about content. You're welcome to share anything about your own experience or the process or your own content, but to not share the other person's. So with all that sort of housekeeping out of the way, Kirsten is going to kick us off with some introduction and framing here.
Okay. Thanks, Dawn. And yeah, just to reiterate the taking care of yourselves. You'll see me, I'll be kind of moving on the screen a little bit. I like to kind of stay connected to my body if I can when I'm on these long Zoom calls. So if you need to move or stretch or lie down, really, if you need to eat, welcome. Yeah, so I'll just say a few words about chaplaincy. I mean, that's why we're here, I think. And also, just to name what a delight it is to be here with Dawn, such a dear friend and deep, deep practitioner, and yeah, just fellow teacher and learner of mine. So we've been dreaming this up for over a year now, recognizing that we're both play these large roles in these different chaplaincy offerings, and what would it look like to, ask questions about how are these similar and how are they different? And so just to name that, chaplaincy, and especially Buddhist chaplaincy, it really offers this almost countercultural kind of form of presence for our times, these times of really cascading crises. Although, loss and suffering is a feature of the human experience, as we very well know and understand. And yet chaplaincy is it's grounded in these practices and skills of deep listening and compassion. And chaplains are trained not to fix, but to accompany, hold space for the complexity of the human experience of grief and confusion and transformation and celebration. So in the world that is, we're so often rewarded with speed and productivity, confidence. And the chaplain's role is really in restoring this very sacred act of being with, being with suffering, of being with loss, of being with possibilities for renewal, for celebration, for marking transformation. And we're seeing that chaplaincy has, historically served individuals in institutions like hospitals and prisons and the military. And more we're seeing a widening of this field. And so, for example, what I've been tending to is looking in places of classrooms, of environmental movements, of ecological communities, of activist spaces, and how eco-chaplaincy, again, in those same sort of skills, developing those same sort of skills is offered to different forms of community and different forms of emotional complexity and spiritual complexity. So, so that's what we're exploring together today. And Dawn may very well want to add something to that, as well as kind of share a bit more about the arc of where we're going.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts emerged when you were speaking, Kirsten. One is that Kirsten was speaking about the engagement in this vitally important area of ecological and environmental concern, crisis, grief, whatever you want to call it. And that in my mind is a form of engaged Buddhism, a form of engaged practice that's very powerful. The Buddhist chaplaincy training, I come from a background of professional hospital chaplaincy. I started in the Buddhist chaplaincy training well over a decade ago at the Sati Center. And one thing that it really can highlight the overall arc of chaplaincy, especially in the Buddhist traditions, is a way to engage that drops beneath difference and emphasizes what connects us all. The very, very most visceral, common, important, and transformative processes that we go through in our lives, whether they are tragedy or celebration, whether they are the inevitability of aging, sickness, death, or birth, and everything in between. And one of the real gifts in my own life and what I've seen in others' lives of the practice of chaplaincy is to be able to connect with a wide range of human beings and contexts, different worlds, different worldviews, in a way that is a heart-centered space, grounded in kindness, grounded in compassion, in care, that is deeply nourishing on a level that is deeper and broader than any view or opinion. So I find that personally to be a delightful dimension of this practice. And then the institutions that Kirsten was speaking about, of course, I've worked in the institution of a hospital. I've not done jail or hospice work. Also, however, chaplains increasingly can serve in a wide variety of circumstances. I've known someone serving as an animal chaplain, doing animal therapies and chaplaincy and spiritual care that way. People who exist in between institutions or parts of society and help cross-fertilize the different parts of society with each other. Or in my current role as a Dharma teacher, that also is chaplaincy and the capacity to serve a whole community and be engaged with a whole community. So the field is evolving, and I personally think that eco-chaplaincy is one of the exciting places it is evolving. And we're here today to talk about a little bit about both of these. And I'll just mention the arc of the day to give you an idea. So the formal program, as formal as it gets, and you're seeing about as formal as it gets right now, that is going to end at noon in order to give alumni from both programs time to connect with each other in breakout rooms, and anyone who has questions of Kirsten and I about the respective programs or about the field of chaplaincy to be with us in the main room. So that'll be from 12 to 12:30 at the end. In the meantime, we will each introduce a little bit more about our background and about the program we come from. And then each of us, I will first provide an exercise, relational exercise that comes from the Buddhist chaplaincy training. And then Kirsten will offer a contemplative inquiry practice that grows out of how the Buddhist eco-chaplaincy evolved. We will have a break of about 15-20 minutes around 10:40, and give us some grace there. It may fluctuate. So know that you will have a break to get up, get tea, whatever. And please, if you need to step away from the screen and do a bio break, a shorter one at any time, do. Did I miss anything, Kirsten, or does that sound about right? Great. So, one thing Kirsten and I have found in our many conversations about our respective avocations and passions, vocations and passions, is that one thing that is common to the forms of chaplaincy we practice and teach is the sense of responsivity, responsiveness to the world and to our own hearts, our own bodies, our own practices. And this process of learning to meet and respond to whatever is deepest and most difficult, most challenging, most important in the moment. At least in hospital chaplaincy, this is like, sometimes chaplains are referred to as the spiritual first responders. So it's that kind of courage of being in the fire of change, being in the fire of dukkha. And then in terms of the Buddhist chaplaincy training, I'll just tell a little bit of a story about how I came to it, and a little bit more maybe will unfold through the day. I was in a massive life transition and had gone to Burma to ordain as a Buddhist nun temporarily. I knew it was temporary when I went. Was away for, I don't know, 6 months, something like that. And my own meditation practice and the insight meditation tradition of the Theravada tradition had really, really deepened and broadened. So I came back just longing to express that practice, that maturity, that wish to be of service in the world. And it, particularly wanting to express metta, kindness, and compassion, karuna. And I feel very fortunate that not long afterwards, in 2010, I discovered the Buddhist chaplaincy training, and felt tentative at first, but wanted the training and being able to offer care to others in a skillful way. So I took the training in 2010, 2011, and last year I started teaching it. So that gives you an idea of my arc. In between, I went through clinical pastoral education and a graduate degree and working in a hospital, Stanford Hospital here in the Bay Area. The Buddhist chaplaincy training was transformative because it linked the depth of Buddhist practice with that call, that wish to show up in the world in service. And to this day, we still train people, whether it's the online training like the one I teach or the in-person training in Redwood City, how to meet people, support people experiencing a broad range of difficulties or life transitions. And I wasn't alone. It's the next step for a lot of people who are long-term or deep practitioners looking for a way to take their practice off the cushion and make a discernment into some kind of right action, whether it ends up being wise or holistic livelihood or volunteering or simply and profoundly a breadth of expression of your practice. So that's just a few words about me and the Buddhist chaplaincy training. And Kirsten will talk now, I think. Are you going to talk a little bit about your involvement with Buddhist eco-chaplaincy?
I could, or should we just go right into your exercise and then, no, I don't need to mess with the schedule. I'll just, yeah, sure, I'll talk. Um, it was just so beautiful. Thank you, Dawn. And I love what you shared in particular around this linkage between practice and service. Because for me, I actually came into chaplaincy through this sort of very backdoor route. I haven't been trained traditionally or officially or formally as a chaplain. As Rob noted, so much of my training has been in the environment and a student of Joanna Macy and doing deep nature connection practice and rites of passage work. And I was I already had a deep Dharma practice at the time that I was teaching as a professor in the environmental studies department at the University of Oregon. And I would teach these introductory environmental studies classes, which would, very kind of formulaically list each week we would cover a different problem, like, mountaintop removal or water pollution or, name it. And then the last week might be something like reasons for hope, but in the course of the term, I could just see my students, and they expressed it too, becoming cynical, becoming numb, becoming shut down, and I could feel that in my own heart and mind. And this is just one, like naming, one group of people who impacted very like in very like psychological and spiritual ways, maybe not as directly as others who are bearing the brunt more directly of environmental impact, humans and non-humans. But feeling like I remember walking home from teaching and thinking this is not going well. Like this love, this is what inspired my offerings of environmental education was this love for the earth and this real engagement with justice and, wanting so much to support life in its thriving. And this felt like it was not helping that. And so what I ended up doing in those classrooms was kind of chaplaincy work, is what I realize now. I had these sessions where I would ask the students to talk about the feelings that they were experiencing, to sit with each other, to be witnessed, to really be at the edge of what they were experiencing and be held in a kind of as unconditional as we could cultivate, a space of deep, compassionate listening. And that was extraordinary. Like, that transformed those classrooms. And then it was later that, in talking with Gil, and I was Gil Fronsdal, and I was finishing my PhD, and uh, that he suggested that I help him develop this Buddhist eco-chaplaincy training program. And I had to look up what chaplaincy meant. Like, I didn't really know. And when I started to learn about it, and, all of what Dawn pointed to, so resonated with what was so alive in me, which was this deep engagement. And like, how do practice and service come together? What is it to have engaged practice? And the gifts of the Dharma, which give us those deep skills of the capacity to listen, to be with, and that open-heartedness, that deep love and compassion. So for me, that's really what sort of motivated, shaped this program. And the the two kind of maybe more specific ways that we work with our eco-chaplain cohorts is this training to work with people who are confronted, maybe directly, like they have lost their homes in climatic events, um, or maybe indirectly confronted with ecological anxiety or grief, but how we support people to be there for their experiences and be supported in their experiences, through ritual, through deep listening, through holding that sacred space of attention, of wise attention, and then also really recruiting nature as a collaborator. And this has been so fun for, I think, all of us, is this deep recognition of, oh, we are nature. Like, the Dharma points to that. This non-separation, this body, this earth body is made up of this earth, will go back to this earth. And so what can we learn from our wider, more than human kin and community? And how might that inspire and inform our ritual, our ceremony, our service of holding space for one another, human and non-human? We have graduates who have done vigils for icebergs and forests and endangered species or extinct species, as well as for other humans. So those are some words of orientation to the eco chaplaincy program and what we're up to. So now we'll move back into Dawn and some practice.
Thank you, Kirsten. So we're going to invite you to be in breakout rooms for, I think we'll do 15 minutes, since just if that makes sense to you, Kirsten. You'll be with one other person, and I'm going to model a little bit about what we're doing. Basically, this is a story from very early in my practice. I think I had only been practicing meditation for about 6 months, and I started in the Soto Zen tradition. And a friend of mine was much further along in that tradition at that time, and had kind of introduced me to her teacher. So I had gone to him, and I was just going through a really rough time, a divorce, health challenges, all this stuff, and didn't yet have the tools, and went in there and was talking, and couldn't even connect with my own feelings. I was so kind of just thrown by everything that had been thrown at me. And he sat there and he looked at me with this look of great compassion as I was talking. And as I continued to share and with his silent presence, I saw a tear come out of his eye. And then another one, not just two. And it woke my heart up. He didn't say anything. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't try to change it. He didn't try to problem solve. He was just there. And he clearly wasn't, overtaken with grief. It was just this profound sense of being felt. And then was able to ground me in my practice after that. So that's a very short version of a story. And I'd like to invite you to share with whoever you're teamed up with a time when you were really heard, felt, met in compassion or someone or care. It doesn't even have to be about something terrible, but a moment where you felt completely held. And if that doesn't come up for you, or even if it does, the second prompt is a time when you've offered that kind of listening to yourself or someone else. So the way it's going to work is we'll ask one person to start, tell your story. The other one, practice completely being present silently. You can do little nonverbal cues or like, but no speaking other than maybe tell me more. Allow that person to finish, and then you will tell your story. And then you can switch. And in the time remaining, if there is time remaining, talk about how it was. Does that make sense? Is that clear enough? Okay. Thank you. We will see you back here in 15 minutes.
Oh, 15? Yeah. Okay. And there's one group of 3.
Okay. And if we may need to shuffle people, sometimes people don't want to be in the breakout rooms. So just be patient if
Oh,
you end
that's
up in
right.
there
I
alone.
actually forgot that there's someone who
Yeah.
already mentioned that. So hang on. Oh, I think they're not here anymore. Okay. Let's see how this goes.
See you in a few.
Dawn, don't join a room.
So maybe we can put Terrigal in their own room.
Yeah, or
I'm just scrolling through to make sure everybody has someone with them.
room 7 doesn't have someone. Do you see that?
Yes.
So maybe we put Freda. Let's see if we can move Freda into room 7. Do you see how to do that, Freda?
We can,
Or maybe we should move Sandra into someone else's room then.
yes.
Okay, I'll just move them into room 8.
Okay. And Freda and Terrigal, we're going to put you in the waiting room for now. Freda, if you do want to be in a room, you have the option to join one. But we will invite you back as soon as the breakouts are over. Hang on 1 second. So welcome back, everyone. I would love to hear just a few quick comments, either in the chat or maybe we have more than one screen of people. So if you raise your hand. Yes, I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce your name right. Salix, is that right?
That is how I pronounce it, yes.
Great.
So something that came up in our little chat was kind of this idea of like what makes me feel listened to and heard versus like offering people what makes them feel listened to and heard. And specifically, I am a very neurodivergent communicator, but I'm at Iliff School of Theology getting an MDiv, and I'm in Naropa's CPE program. And so I'm learning a lot about listening and like how to be a good listener. And meanwhile, I have lived a life with an ADHD mom and sister with autism and ADHD, where the three of us would go hang out at Walmart and we would talk at each other in different directions. And that was like us hanging out and having a conversation, but we weren't necessarily like tending to each other's content. It was a different kind of like listening and exchange. And so for me, when I'm listening to you, I'm probably going to want to tell you a story about myself to make sure that I understand what you're saying. And with other neurodivergent people, a lot of times that is a great way to communicate. They understand, you go back and forth. It's beautiful. But then when you're in maybe a contemplative chaplaincy peer processing group, you might have conversations about like working harder to decenter yourself.
That's right.
And so we talked about this kind of tension between I want to hear you reflect yourself back. That is what makes me feel heard, but I'm being trained specifically to not reflect myself back.
And then the wisdom of knowing when each of those work as a skillful modality. Thank you so much, Salix, for bringing that perspective. And I do want to give other people time to share too. Is
absolutely.
That okay?
We just ended by talking about teachers who we felt like were good examples. So that's sort of like how do we figure that out? Well, teachers, we keep learning.
Great. And everyone can be our teacher. Thank you so much. I think we have time for one or two short ones. If anyone wants to share, anyone else want to share? Thank you, Salix. That was beautiful. Yeah, Shannon and then Michaela, and then that'll be break time. Shannon, please. Oh, you're muted, Shannon.
So it's just, I would say it's wonderful to be back in a heart space where, and how good it feels to actually get out of the way of, to accompany. And anyway, it was really beautiful. And it reminded me, and your story also reminded me of that story of crying with.
Yes.
Yeah. It was really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Shannon is bringing in the very first reading that happened in the Buddhist chaplaincy training, is crying with. Michaela, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to touch on authentic intimacy and how vulnerable that can feel, particularly if you're in a professional caregiving role, like allowing yourself to be held in a container by other when you're used to providing the container. And so talking about being really intentional about finding those bidirectional relationships to keep us held while we also hold others.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot in what you just said. There's a lot in what each of you said, Salix, Shannon, and Michaela. And to find peer relationships is vital. And that care and self-care of allowing ourselves to be seen and felt in whatever way works for you. So, friends, we're at time for our break. We'll take 15 minutes. And when we come back, I'm going to be delighted to hear the Buddhist eco-chaplaincy connection and exercise. So we'll see you back here at 41 after the hour. Thank you.
Right. So, how were the repeating questions? How was that? What did you notice or learn or feel? Yeah, I think that's a Michael, is that right? On the phone?
I thought it was really joyful. Yeah, I
Mm.
really loved it. And somatically, I felt lighter. And I thought it was pretty brilliant doing the joy question second because I did feel heavy the first. But I felt well resourced because I was standing with my feet, growing roots toward the earth. And I felt still stable, like a palm tree or blows in the wind. And thank you for your kind attention, and I really appreciated this adventure.
Yeah, thank you. You are so, well, I'm sure you were thanking your partner, but oh yes, I think your partner just gave you emoticon, if that was them. Fred.
I loved going through both questions. There were moments of discovery in this, as there was with our previous exercise, a lot of deep and actually quite moving discovery for me. But the other really important part is just being with my partner. In both cases, I really felt a lot of connection with both people, and that was a delight. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're naming something really important. It's, that quality of connection, despite or that the conditions, the circumstances, they're there too, but the quality of connection can be maintained throughout all the diversity of experience that comes and goes. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else want to reflect at all? You can put things in the chat too if that's simpler for you. Clapping hands. What was it like? What's it like to be the listener?
I think Tammy was trying to raise her hand.
Oh,
Tammy,
trying to
did you want to
raise your
speak?
hand. Oh, Tammy. Okay, got it. I thought that was like a yay.
Well, it's yay also, but it's all yay. I think this is true of both my partners, and by the way, all three of us are in the Anukampa class as well. So that was good. And has been unfolding for all three of us. I think that in my last exchange with my second partner is where we named the fact how physically how much physicality there was to the sensations of going through the things that are heartbreak, both in this exercise and elsewhere, and where it's really palpable in the relational or an experiential field. I mean, I can feel it. My partner talked about that as well. And then the more open-hearted joy that came in also for us. And it was a physical shift that was experienced by me, and I think my partner felt that as well. And to keep that in mind, and that these micro exchanges we have with people outside of this class in the world, in our lives, even if they're 5 to 30 seconds, changes the field and the other person as well as me, my partner, and to keep remembering that that's an area where I can work without having to do a big march or something like that, which it's not my mode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, different form of engagement, of wise response. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Any others? No pressure. And it's lovely to hear yeah, Joyce.
Thanks. I was just, I'm just thinking how the the questions of that Dawn put forward then led into the exercise that Kirsten taught us, and that usually if someone like repeats a question to me, I would feel annoyed, you know. But in this case, I felt I was, that I was really heard and seen. And so thank you.
Mm. Yeah, thanks to the partner. Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And sometimes that is, with those inquiry exercises or the repeating questions, that's actually a beautiful thing too, to just, it wasn't there for you, but to name, oh, feeling annoyed right now, feeling irritated by being asked that question. There's something actually quite beautiful about having an edge met and also being able to express that and have that being held in that unconditional, by that unconditional presence of deep listening. Yeah. So no right answers to those questions. So I'll just wait another moment if there's anyone else, and then we can transition. Okay, yeah, Shannon.
As I was thinking about it, the first question, it's so easy to quickly come up with an answer in everyday life. And we answer that way and we accept answers that way. But with this, I don't know how this would work if I was asking somebody at the coffee shop, having coffee, to repeat it. But what it really, it's like the first one is like just opening this little door. And then the second one just isn't almost more like an invitation to come in and sit down, and it just keeps opening and opening. Really was really beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think, what, just to contextualize those questions, that they're really speaking to the complexity and depth and richness and beauty of the human experience. And as chaplains, that's what we're showing up for. That's it. That's a real gift that we offer. So, speaking of chaplain and chaplaincy, Dawn, you want to bring us into the next piece?
Yes. So, something that may resonate for many of you is to consider for yourself how you're already showing up in your life. Some of you here, I know some of you have had formal chaplaincy training. Some of you have functioned as chaplains. Others, this is your first time considering this, and there's a whole range in between. But we'd like to invite you to discuss with 2 or 3 other people how you're already, 4 total, yes, 2 or 3 others, 4 groups of 4, how you're already showing up as a chaplain. And by that, I'll say, how are you already showing up in your life for yourself, for others, with presence, with kindness, with compassion, inviting depth. Even the beautiful story, I think it was Tammy who shared about these micro interactions. How is that already showing up in your life? And those of you who are professionals or quasi-professionals, regularly engaged, the invitation is to consider how it's percolating out more broadly in your life. For me, doing chaplaincy transformed all of my relationships, not just my professional ones. So to consider that for yourself, how are you already showing up in the chat field of chaplaincy, the relational field? So we'll have you in groups of 4 for 15 minutes to talk about this. And the invitation again is to go around and share once, and then maybe then have more of a discussion. So each of you have a chance to tell your story, for a few minutes, 2-3 minutes, and then everyone talk about it. Any questions about that discussion? And if you don't want to participate, you can just stay here with your camera off and meditate. That's fine. We will rebalance the rooms. So welcome back, everyone. So I'd love to hear if you are feeling moved to share anything that emerged for you about how you're showing up as a chaplain, with your presence, with your attention, with your care. Any ahas that came up in the chat or verbally is fine. What was it like to discuss that with each other?
I'll just say that, oh, go ahead, Mary.
Thank you. This has all been wonderful, every group. And what I talked about was showing up for myself. And it was interesting to note that that echoed for others, and that I have known intellectually for years, yes, if you take better care of yourself, you can take better care of other people. But I really didn't believe it. I didn't know how to do it. And with really devoting to developing my own practice, that it's happening. So I'm incredibly grateful, and I'm astonished and love this opportunity to be able to name it, recognize it. It's like, oh my God, it's actually happening. So thank everyone, and group members especially, and teachers, everybody. Thank you.
Mary, is it okay if I ask you a follow-up question?
Sure.
Yeah. So how do you notice it showing up? How do you know that showing up for yourself is happening and that it's naturally flowing out? What gives you the clue?
One thing is relationship with my 30 plus years partner is really shifting, because I am more willing to say, could you take care of that? Instead of I'm the house elf for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is with my family, being able to question honestly. So how is our relationship? How does my behavior affect you? And not feeling scared to hear the answers. And one of the other people in our group mentioned self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And being able to take risks with people where it might be very, very difficult, but I'm like, okay, what's going on? And listening.
Beautiful. So that vulnerability, that courage I'm hearing, and the Buddhist chaplaincy training, many of you know this, is organized around the paramis, the perfections, and satya parami, honesty, truthfulness, both inwardly and outwardly, as well as it sounds like a lot of care. Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me explore it a little bit with you.
Yes. Thank you.
Anyone else? And if you're on the second screen, we're not going to be able to see your hand. So maybe a Zoom hand. If you feel like you're not being called on, you can also unmute yourself. Yes, Debbie. Hi.
Mary, thank you for bringing that self-care up. I got to experience Anukampa last year with Gil and Vanessa. And I tended to always look at how can I help others? How can I be there for others? And it was a wonderful 11-month exploration of finding the strength to take care of myself too, which has helped now after the Anakampa program, seeing the change within me. So Mary, thank you for bringing up that self-care. I have a cold right now, and I'm one way I just sitting still and not doing, because I tend to be a big doer. It's almost like the quiet time when one is sick, taking care of oneself. So I think of that a lot. Make sure I do that self-care too. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. And what you explicitly brought in the room is self-care, such a foundational piece. So this is the foundational skill in chaplaincy, is self-care. And finding ways to connect with your practice, with your people, with your resources, whatever they are, in a way that's nourishing, connecting, enlivening, vibrant, any number of flavors it can take. And I do think, Mary and Debbie both, that you're naming something that maybe isn't always so commonly talked about in our culture in a healthy way. Self-care is often about shopping or buying the next thing or looking a certain way. And this is an invitation. I love that you're talking about self-care from the inside out, from your heart. Thank you. Anyone else? I'm very curious, like how you notice yourself showing up for yourself, for the world. So, since there's not a lot of competing voices for that, I'd like to invite us into a more of a large group discussion for just a few minutes. And this is, broadly speaking, reflections from the day, comments or observations, ahas, anything that has emerged. And if you don't have anything or a question, if you don't have that, I will have a question for you in just a few minutes.
Good morning, it's Michael. I just kind of wanted to share about the last question about how the group was. And I just felt really enlivened hearing my partner share regarding showing up. And it was really sweet, and I felt light and kind of joyful. And yeah, it was very heartwarming. So that's what I'd like to share. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you for this today. Exactly what I was hoping to hear. And I believe it was Kirsten, but it could have been you, Don, who said this earlier in the group, about how chaplaincy provides that link between our practice and service. And I so appreciate that. And I think now it was you, maybe. But I so appreciate that. And that's really what I needed to hear right now. I find myself unemployed after many years. And I knew I wanted to move to something spiritual when I retired, but it's being pushed up. But with everything that's happening right now, and I always want to do something, but I'm never, so I join groups and I try to do things, but it just doesn't. But this chaplaincy being that link. It's like something just kind of clicked in my brain. And I'm really just thank you for this group. And I think it's going to be a defining moment. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. It's moving to hear you say that, and wish you very best on your unfolding journey with it, however it turns out. Erica, please.
Hi. Today I've just been I feel like I've so moved by all the sharing with all of my partners, and to hear about their practices and the depth of their practices and the consideration they give, first of all, to others, and this, I think I heard so much, and I shared also how important that self-care is and how they're so linked. So yeah, I just want to thank my partners and thank the group, and you feel very moved by each of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Beautiful. Sveta, hi.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, I too want to say how nourishing and wonderful this time here has been for me, and thank you to everybody who I got to talk to in the groups. And I just want to share, I had this maybe aha moment when Kirsten said that at the beginning that a chaplain is, I don't remember exactly, but it was one who is with, kind of elaborating a little bit on the idea, on the like chaplain as a witness. And I really find it, in some texts, in the Satipatthana, how, the mind with greed, as opposed to the mind, the greedy mind, it's just such a, for me personally, this paraphrase with, there's something really, really, really important about it. Something that just immediately helps me to kind of, if I'm caught up, to gain some, just kind of all of a sudden feel like I'm not caught. And I thought like, wow, that was my aha moment. That's why chaplaincy was so, like, I couldn't even understand what is it about it that was so important to me. It's by definition, yes, of course, it is to be with, not to be lost. Yeah, so just leave it at that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sveta. Yeah, it's the being with. Sometimes the word used as companioning, to be a companion with, a witness for. Yeah, very well said.
If I may also just to
Yes.
reflect on what Sveta you shared, it's good to see you, was just how like beautifully you articulated chaplaincy within the 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 Buddha Dharma, within the wisdom of this practice. And that's also, we didn't emphasize that so much in our morning, but these programs are situated from that Buddhist frame, from that understanding of the three characteristics, of no stable self, of suffering being a feature of our existence, of our lives, of change being a central part of what we all experience, and holding those wisdom teachings as chaplains is profound. And there's been so many connections like you're describing that I've had in my own system as I've been exploring chaplaincy, where it starts to kind of come together. So yeah, thank you for naming that.
Thank you.
Mm.
So I think what might be interesting to hear is with Sveta's beautiful words and Kirsten's response. What does your Buddhist practice call you to do now? What does it call you to do? We have just a couple of minutes, so if a few people want to say very briefly, you can put it in the chat. You can say a single word. It can be more elaborate. Yes, Fred. Hi, nice to see you.
Hi, everybody. I'm reminded of the phrase from Ram Dass, the quote from Ram Dass, all we're doing here is walking each other home. Right? And that's how it feels. I just recently moved into a retirement community, and yeah, it really feels like that here for sure.
Thank you. Yes, and walking each other home with our presence and compassion and humor and skill. Sharon, yes.
Sorry, I know I just spoke,
That's
but
fine.
that question about the Dharma, what it's asking of me this week, following, things that are happening in the country and the world. And I really want to be able to be part of, I don't need to be part of anything, but I want to be a positive piece of what's happening now as opposed to a negative piece. And just this week, it occurred to me, because I have to have more compassion to bring down conflict everywhere around. And so it occurred to me this week, I have started doing metta for myself. And what's amazing, and somebody else kind of spoke, suddenly this week, which I haven't tried metta for myself in a long time, I was able to do it, which is a big deal. But that's where that practice is telling me that's what I need to do, because until I can gain that compassion and love for myself, it's only superficial for others that I come in contact with. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, very deeply true. And I'm delighted to hear of the shift in your practice. I just want to read a couple from the chat. Appreciation for being a part of a Sangha. And then in terms of what your practice, what the Dharma is calling you to do, watch what arises and be with it. Continue. Random acts of kindness and micro-loving connection encounters coupled with self-compassion and care. So we're going to begin to move towards, we're already moving towards closure for the day, for the half day. And just a reminder that as we move into this, we'll talk a little bit about ritual. And before you get all geared up to leave, the invitation is, if you want to stay, if you're an alumni of the Buddhist chaplaincy training, there'll be a breakout room for you to just connect with other people, probably from other cohorts, or if you're currently a student as well. It's a very sweet way to cross-connect with different generations of practitioners. You're all part of the same community. We are all part of the same community, no matter where our training or lack of training has been. And in the main room, Kirsten and I will have an open Q&A for anyone who thinks they might be interested in either of the programs. So that's available if you want it, and no pressure. If you don't, you're welcome to get on with your day. But for the next few minutes, just want to talk a little bit about something really fundamental to both of the programs, which is engaging with the power of ritual. And I grew up in a very sort of egalitarian religious structure. There was a little bit of ritual, but like lots of permission to do your own thing, believe your own thing, do your own seeking practices, all of that. So this didn't really click for me until later when starting to engage in chaplaincy, that this ancient quality, ancient process of ritual has been around since human beings have been around. And that it speaks to different parts of the body, the heart, the mind that just aren't accessible to the rational mind. And it can be a profound part of healing, of spiritual care, of community cohesion, all kinds of different functions that it can serve. And to give a simple example, this was something, some of you will know the name Stephen Porges, sort of famed neuroscientist who pioneered something called polyvagal theory, which I read some about in graduate school. He wrote a tome like this. I'm not exaggerating. It's like 2.5, 3-inch tome. He gave a presentation at the Stanford Center for Compassion, Altruism, and Research and Education, CCARE. This was at least 10 years ago now, where he was talking about the power of ritual across all religions and how it has this ability to soothe and calm the whole system. And he wasn't reducing it to neuroscience, but he was saying, here, look, it has these psychophysiological correlates. And there's a reason that every culture comes up with a way to bow. And every culture comes up with a way to chant and to mark special occasions, that it's deeply meaningful and actually is something that reconnects us with ourselves, re-knits our systems together with each other and with ourselves. So, Kirsten, I think you might have a few words about this too, please.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so ritual is a kind of fundamental aspect of these trainings. And I'll just say a bit more about what we do with the eco chaplaincy in terms of ritual, or what we invite. There's a lot of collaboration with nature, with the earth, with the more than human, whatever word you like to use for that. And I know not only like Dawn pointed to, is there a deeply healing experience that we have individually when we engage in ritual, but how it weaves us together relationally. It's really a way of kind of Dawn used that word knit, like knitting us together in this larger web of life, of living. And it can be so simple. I think that's what I like to tell folks who might be just kind of getting used to the idea of ritual and maybe disengaging it from ideas that they had about what ritual is or should be. But there's a simplicity in it that is just so beautiful. Like something that I've been doing for years now is every morning when I get up, I go outside to a tree outside my dwelling with a little cup of water or a little pinch of lavender, and I just put that by the tree. I put my hand on the tree, I put my another hand on the earth, and I just give some metta, give some gratitude, for this earth, for these beings. And over the years, there's like a thread of kinship that develops and has developed between me and this particular tree, right? Like there's lots of trees outside my place, but this tree and I have become friends, And that's what ritual, or especially the repetition of ritual, can do, is it can create and then strengthen these relational webs that we have with one another. So we're going to end with a little ritual. and simple one. Some of it will be very familiar to you. Some of it maybe not so much, but for those of you who can or are able, we're going to bring our hands out to the screen and see if we can meet the hands next to us. And this is just a way that we can, really connect, feel the presence of one another here. We're in these various places around the world on screens, and yet, gosh, we're all human bodies on this shared earth, and just meeting each other for a moment. This touching, this meeting is core to chaplaincy. Like, we need to be touched. The heart needs to be touched in order to elicit that compassionate response. So in the service of our time together and all of the engagement that we've put into this morning or afternoon, may it be of service, of benefit to this wider world. May all beings everywhere be safe from harm and feel healthy and well in body and mind. And really know a sense of their own belonging to life. And then may they be free.
Thank you all very much for your practice.